In 2010, Spain made international football look solved. They controlled the ball, controlled the space, and eventually controlled how almost every match was played. It felt less like a great team and more like a permanent advantage. Then the champions disappeared. Out in the group stage in 2014, out in a round of 16 in 2016, penalties in 2018, penalties again against Morocco in 2022. Spain still had the ball, they completed the passes, but tournament after tournament, possession began looking less like control and more like somewhere to hide. Now they are European champions and back in a World Cup final. And they did not return by rebuilding 2010. They returned by finally moving beyond it. The original Spain were not special merely because they passed more than everyone else. They had Xavi and Iniesta reading the same spaces, Busquets linking midfield and defence, and a team that recovered the ball before opponents could escape. Their patience was dangerous because it had an objective. They moved opponents until a passing lane opened, and when it did, they used it. But success created a trap. Every Spanish team that followed was judged by visible features: possession, passing totals, and midfield control. The style survived, but the exact combination of players, timing, and movement did not. Spain kept copying the silhouette of their greatest team, without always recreating what made it dangerous. The decline was not a continuous disaster. Spain still produced excellent players, still dominated matches, and even reached the Euro 2020 semi-final. But the same weakness kept returning. Against deep defences, the ball moved while the opponent barely had to. Spain could circulate possession around the block without forcing the block to change shape. Morocco in 2022 was the clearest example. Spain had almost all of the ball. Morocco accepted that, protected the centre, and waited for every attack to return to where it started. Spain controlled possession, but Morocco controlled where Spain were allowed to use it. And after 90 minutes without a goal, Spain missed every penalty they took. A team built around control had reached the moment it could not control at all. So how did that team become European champions 2 years later and a World Cup finalist 4 years later? Spain's answer was Luis de la Fuente, not a famous revolutionary brought in to destroy the old identity, but a coach who had spent years inside the system producing its replacement. Before the senior job, he had coached Spain from under-19 through to the under-21s and under-23 level. He understood the pathway, the expectations, and the type of player it kept producing. De la Fuente did not ask Spain to stop being Spain. He kept the technical midfielders, positional structure, and believed that the ball could organise a match. What he had removed was the assumption that every attack had to be perfect before it could become dangerous. Within 7 months, Spain won the Nations League. 1 year later, they won the Euros. The recovery had already begun before anyone called it a comeback. If you take a step back, you'd realise Spain's results show evolution, not an overnight transformation. They show a team slowly finding its way out. The early exits gave way to a European semi-final, then a Nations League title, a European Championship, another Nations League final, and now a World Cup final. The line is not perfectly straight. Real recoveries rarely are. But by 2024, Spain were no longer searching for the next version of 2010. They had started building something else. The first change was width. Not midfielders beginning near the touchline and drifting inside. Actual wingers who wanted to attack defenders there. Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams forced the defensive line to protect the entire pitch. Leave them alone and they could win the one-on-one. Send help and space open somewhere else. Their fullbacks made the picture even harder to solve. Sometimes they overlapped, sometimes they moved inside. The opponent could no longer defend Spain by simply crowding the middle. Spain did not replace midfield control. They stretched the pitch so that control finally had somewhere to go. The second change was rhythm. Later Spanish teams had preserved the patience of 2010, but too often lost the acceleration that made the patience worthwhile. The current team can still keep the ball for 20 passes. The difference is that past 21 might split a line before the defense has time to reset. They circulate, draw the opponent inward, and then attack the space they have created. A winger isolated, a fullback running underneath, a midfielder arriving for the cutback. Spain did not abandon patience. They gave patience an ending. And the third change appears the moment possession is lost. Spain no longer rely on only keeping the ball to prevent attacks. They position the players behind it so they can attack the turnover immediately. The nearest players press. The midfield closes the next pass. The defenders move forward instead of retreating towards their own box. At Euro 2024, the structure allowed Spain to keep opponents trapped. A broken attack did not always become a counter-attack. It often became another Spanish attack. That matters because width and speed carry risk. The more players Spain send forward, the more important it becomes to control what happens if the move fails. The old Spain suffocated opponents by refusing to lose the ball. This Spain can suffocate them after losing it, and that is what allows the attack to be braver. It would be easy to reduce the comeback to two young wingers. Yamal and Williams changed what Spain could do, but they did not create a functioning team by themselves. The midfield still controls the rhythm, the defenders protect the space behind the attack, and the striker creates room even when he does not score. And when the match changes, the bench gives Spain another answer rather than a weaker version of the first one. The winning goal in the Euro final came from a substitute. And that's why the team could win through possession, pressing, defensive organisation, or one decisive action. The method can change without the identity disappearing. A talented team has great players. A great team makes those players feel connected. France looked like the opponent built to expose every risk in Spain's new approach. Speed in transition, elite one-on-one attackers, and space behind advancing fullbacks. Spain did not respond by retreating into the pass. They kept the ball, protected the next transition, and waited for the moments when France's shape could be opened. Oyarzabal scored from the spot. Pedro Porro finished the flowing move. France spent the rest of the match searching for a version of the game Spain had already removed. 2-0, Spain were back in the World Cup final for the first time since the team everyone had spent 14 years trying to recreate. The final will decide whether this team will become world champions. It won't decide whether Spanish football has returned.